Thank you so much, Arne, for staying, because I knew you had to leave. The floor is yours. We have a little presentation about the multi-fuel port. I think that's quite nice to add it on Sebastian's presentation, and after that we have a short break. So Arne, take the floor. We see your presentation here on the Teams already, but now we need it in the audience here as well. So I think it's coming. It's in the air somewhere. And here it is. All right, go, Arne.
Right. Thank you very much, Daisy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here, and also thank you, Sebastian, and also Daisy, for the nice presentations. I think my presentation aligns very well with the presentations already given. So I'm Arne Strybos. I'm working for the Port of Antwerp Bruges, where I'm focusing on the fuel transition of the cargo transport from, to, and through our port. Maybe a quick introduction on our port. We are a seaport, actually, with a lot of shipping movements. Each year we welcome more than 20,000 seagoing vessels and more than 80,000 inland navigation barges. Today I will be talking about our multi-fuel port approach and which actions we are taking today to prepare for a multi-fuel port. So why is it important for us? Well, here you see some numbers. We are the 5th largest bunker port worldwide, which means we are providing each year around 5.5 million tons of oil equivalent, or 278 terawatt hours of bunker fuels. And right now they are mostly conventional bunker fuels like gas oil. So if we are looking into the regulations, I think it was already briefly touched. For the seagoing vessels, we are looking into IMO, which have set an ambition for 50% greenhouse gas emission reduction by 2050. They will probably even put a stronger target within the next couple of months. When also Europe is preparing inside of their regulatory framework. And of course, as Daisy already mentioned, we have the Act of Mannheim, where there are also some targets on greenhouse gas emission reduction. So I think this is one is already talked about. How can we reduce CO2 emissions in shipping? And there are multiple options to reduce, but if we really want to make an impact, we will have to change the fuels which are being used in the shipping industry. And which fuels are possible? There are indeed a lot of fuels possible. We are looking into hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, fuel oil. There is no silver bullet solution. We think there will be multiple fuels for specific types of cargo or specific types of movements, distances, operational challenges, and so on. So when we are talking with the shipping companies, these are the seagoing ships, we ask the question, okay, what fuels are you considering to use? We know right now already LNG and biofuels are already in place. It's already being used. For the new fuels, we are looking into methanol quite early. But also ammonia, hydrogen, and batteries are viable options for the longer term future. And this graph was already shown by Daisy. I think it shows the innovation pathway for the inland navigation, and we see electrification by battery use, hydrogen, and also methanol as a fuel for the inland navigation sector. So now I want to briefly touch on some initiatives and projects we are doing in the port together with our stakeholders. First, I'll start with the hydrogen in the inland navigation. We have our own hydrotug, which will come into operations within a couple of months as well. This ship is a dual fuel powered ship, which means it uses hydrogen, gaseous hydrogen, in combination with diesel in a combustion engine. There's also already the Hydrocat, which is into operation already quite some years. It's used for passenger transportation across the Scheldt, and it also uses a dual fuel engine. We already have a multimodal hydrogen refueling station. It's a station from CMB Tech. So trucks, but also barges, ships can bunker their hydrogen at this station. We also have already some facilities on LNG, which might be interesting also for the provision of hydrogen as a fuel. And then there's the MS Maas project, which I will talk about more in the next couple of slides, also including the Rhine project. So we are involved in the Rhine project, and Rhine is really a corridor-focused approach for the introduction of hydrogen in inland navigation. And as you can see in the picture right now, they are looking into containerized hydrogen. And why containerized hydrogen? It's hydrogen which is gaseous. If you would put it in your vessel, it would take quite a long time to fill the storage facility. If you do it in a container, you can put it quite easily on and off a ship. Then it only takes 5 minutes to really bunker this hydrogen. And in the Rhine project, there's a spin-off, let's say. It's the Condor project, which is really aiming at the development of these containers, where also standardization is quite a big issue today. There is none today, and we really want to build these containers and to standardize them to be used all over Europe as well. And I think the important thing here is the value chain and the corridor approach. We will need more bunkering if you're using hydrogen because there's less energy than diesel, for example. I think Sebastian already touched upon that. So there will be a need to have a corridor approach with multiple locations where you can quickly and safely switch hydrogen containers as well. So one of the Rhine pilot projects, let's say, is the MS Maas as well. It will be bunkering its hydrogen in Antwerp. And to give a quick overview, it's also a containerized hydrogen solution. The ship will use a fuel cell and electric propulsion. And the hydrogen is contained at 350 bars, meaning there can be around 500 kilograms of hydrogen in one container. The ship will swap 1 or 2 full or empty containers in Antwerp and will then sail between Rotterdam and Meerhout and make a pit stop, let's say, in Antwerp to get the hydrogen. Then we are also involved in a project, an infrastructural project on a battery loading station. The battery loading station will provide power for containers, containerized batteries, and these batteries can also be used for the propulsion of the ships. It's part of the Pioneers project. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. And as you know, ZES is right now really pioneering in this, but we are also, of course, looking into other operators and providers of these types of batteries. So the battery loading station will be actually open to all. It will be open access, not exclusively to ZES. Then if we're talking about methanol, it's also something Sebastian already touched upon. We are building right now the Metatuck, which will come into operation within a month or two. On the right side, you can see the engines being built in, and on the left side, a rendering of our tugboat as well. And it's part of the Fast Water project. Then one last initiative we are taking, we are together with the Flemish Waterway, the Flemish Department for Mobility, North Sea Ports as a port of Antwerp Bruges, and the Flemish Inland Navigation Knowledge Center. We are trying to bring all stakeholders in the inland navigation sector together, where we will be working on technology, policy, financial solutions, and implementation of solutions for the greening of the Flemish inland shipping sector. We really want to create a starting point for the greening of the Flemish inland navigation, and the outcomes can serve as a reference framework for future initiatives and guidance for policies. But most importantly, it will create a movement that makes efforts more visible. So if you're active in the navigation sector and also in Flanders and are interested in greening your operations, or you're working as a technology provider or within policy, you are certainly welcome to join our Green Deal. Just scan the QR code for more information. I would say I will send out also this presentation so you can still scan later on and join our Green Deal internshipping. And then lastly, also a way to quickly realize emission reduction is using onshore power supply. In our port, we have more than 200 connections for the onshore power supply. So I really wanted to make this point as well. If you're interested in greening your operations, then onshore power supply is the way to go forward. And if I still have some time, I will be very, very brief. We also have our own strategy to make the usage and the transportation of the fuels in our port viable. Therefore, we are looking into different roles we can play. We have a regulator role, operator role, a landlord role, and a community building role. As an operator, we are looking into a more sustainable fleets and more sustainable vessels from the Port Authority itself. As I already touched upon, we have the Metaturk and the Hydroturk. It's really pioneering projects where we are using alternative fuels. On the other side, we also have hybrid patrol vessels, which work mostly on a battery. It has an autonomy of around 4 to 5 hours, depending on the operations being done, to sail on a battery. And then we also have the reverse stern drive energy efficient tugs, which use an interesting technology to get 50% more efficient operations. When we're looking into our landlord role, we want to provide a clear framework where all the shipping companies, the ships can bunker, and we want to create a safe environment, let's say. So we will be doing a study on the possible bunker locations in our port, and we will make a bunker map as well. We already have one for LNG, as you can see. But also for methanol, for hydrogen, and for ammonia, we will make the same types of bunker maps so we can have safe operations in our port. When it comes to safe operations, we are also working on a framework for the bunker operations. We are putting up a licensing system for the bunker operators for each type of fuel. We will of course, control if the bunker map is being followed. And we are already making a compulsory use of a bunker checklist to provide to bunker operators to really check if everything is checked out and before starting the bunker operations. We are not doing this alone. It's an integrated approach where we are jointly licensing bunker fuel operators just to make it as efficient as possible and to make sure we have the same rules as other ports as well. And then last role we have is the community builder role, where we are also talking with the terminals, which are in the vicinity of these new ships on new fuels. Where there are also some new risks involved, and we really want to prepare everyone, so not only on the shipping vessel, but also on the terminal side to safely use these new fuels, which come at a higher risk. So this was very briefly what's going on in our port. I hope you think it's interesting, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. You have my contact details in the last slide here.
Yes, thank you very much, Arne. I think it was brief but clear, at least it was for me. I looked at the online audience for questions, and I saw a question here. Are you setting the example for the many inland ports in general?
An example, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. We are, in fact, pioneering. We have some very new technology which will be operating in our port as well very soon. So I think we can be quite a good example. And then surely I'm open to share this knowledge we are are experiencing right now.
Yes, all right, very clear. I saw also a question on the infrastructure.
Oh, il est vivant, il est debout.
Someone needs to mute on Teams. I think we can take care of that. That's okay. It's always fun. But I saw a question on battery-powered vessels, if it's taken into account, but I thought it was taken into account. I saw it in your presentation that you are working with CES and how it's going to be an open source and not exclusively. So I think that question is already answered. And then I'm looking at the physical audience here. Are there questions for Arne, for the multi-fuel port infrastructure and regulation and landowner and community builders and everything they are, Port of Antwerp and Bruges? Yeah? No. I see another question. Did you starting a know-how exchange with POR, Port of Rotterdam, to get a standard environment? Are you working together with the Port of Rotterdam?
We are talking with the Port of Rotterdam, of course, and we are looking where we can have synergies. I think it's good to speak to our neighbors, let's say, and to be sure we have the same kinds of regulations, for example, safety standards and so on. So yes, we are working with them, but of course we are staying also competitors, so we are not working with them all of the time.
Not all of the time. Yeah. But there is some synergy. That's nice to know. Last question then. Who are the investors in port infrastructure if we talk about zero emission or near to zero emission alternative fuels?
That's a good question. We in the port, we own the land, but we don't own the operations. So there are concessions given away to companies who can use the surface, let's say, for their operations. So we get into contact with these in this fact actually the terminal operators, for example, and we are looking how they can set up also for them the electrification maybe of vehicles, a charging station, and then we get into contact and see how, for example, a battery loading station can be also implemented on their surface. Of course, there's a business case in this as well. So by this way, we really want to implement these solutions inside of our port platform.
Yeah, all right, very clear. Well, I conclude then the Port of Antwerp Bruges has a clear focus on multi-energy sources with your multi-port fuel plans. You already have some pioneering projects that were shown, and they are all using on a different or focusing on a different energy source. I think that's quite interesting to see. And that's also one of the roles that a port, in my opinion, has to play, to be a pioneer together with the government and some entrepreneurs. So being pioneers is quite important there. And of course, infrastructure and regulations are a keystone in this green puzzle. And I think the Port of Antwerp is trying its best. Port of Antwerp Bruges is trying its best to do that. So Arne, I thank you very much also for your patience and your flexibility. Ports are flexible as well, we know that. So thank you very much. One large applause again, and then we go for the coffee break.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.